Good morning, and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenoff, coming to you live. They are at our home at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up on the show today, very much looking forward to this, guys. Amy Tubbs is a journalism teacher at Pulaski High School, and they have done a really good job over the years of really doing an excellent job of keeping an eye on what's happening in Pulaski. This is an example of yet another news desert. We've talked about this many times, that there are a lot of areas where there is no local news, there's no local reporting. So we have high school journalists who are stepping in to fill in that gap. So Amy Tubbs is going to be joining us a little bit later on this hour. Next hour, we are going to talk about immigration in the U.S. One particular story out of Madison this morning involving a nanny. So we will be talking about that. Also, next hour for Audio Sorbet after the 10:30 news. That's the part of the show where we lighten things up, get away from the news, and talk about lighter, sillier things. Today, I believe it was yesterday, Calvin and Hobbes, the cartoon, celebrated an anniversary. So we were talking about this. Cartoon strips used to be a big part of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
So what were some of your favorite cartoon strips from back in the day? Does the paper even have them anymore?
That's a great question.
I subscribe to the Journal Sentinel online,
yeah,
but I don't actually get the physical paper anymore. But we're going to talk about favorite cartoons, comic strips from years gone by, and then we'll wrap up the show as we always do with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the Take a Bite edition. Stick around for that. Wanted to start off with this, though. Senate, this is from the Wisconsin Examiner. Baylor Spears with the byline, Senate passes bill to eliminate 400-year veto and redefine abortion. A bipartisan group of senators also approved a bill to bar health care for undocumented immigrants. This is their last floor session of the year in the Wisconsin Senate. Did they take up things that Wisconsinites have said repeatedly they would like medical marijuana or red flag laws or universal background checks? No, they didn't do any of the things that Wisconsinites have asked for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's a surprise.
No, of course not. And now they get to just make laws on things that are already laws.
Yeah, but
Jay, I don't know if you know this, but at the Matenaer On Air State House we have here at Radio Park, I'm putting forth a bill that's going to say that murder is bad. I hope you join me in my bill that says murder bad, Cool Ranch Doritos rule, and Baja Blast should be available every day of the year. That's what I'm doing with it's about as much as they're doing up there in Madison, because again, we talk about this over and over again. People of Wisconsin, regardless of their party affiliation, have made it quite clear about the things on which they find important. And it is education, it's childcare, it's healthcare, it's quality of life, affordability, and the State House is doing none of those things.
No, they do what they want.
They do what they want.
They do what they want.
But they go on Twitter and they talk about all the terrible things that are happening in Wisconsin, how Tony Evers is so terrible, and property taxes and energy bills. Well, okay, he's the governor. That's true. But if there was something you wanted to do about it, then do something. And getting rid of this 400-year veto is more for show, because I know that, because if you go on Twitter, you can see them whining about this all the time. Well, then, you know what? He wouldn't have had to do that if he just funded education, maybe a little bit more than, a generational increase, Robin Voss. That's nothing compared to what you should have been doing over the years to help grow our Wisconsin educational system, including not diverting hundreds of millions of dollars to a second school system, i.e. the voucher program.
Yeah. And we will include this in our show notes because, Greg, I think it's important for people to keep track of this, because again, it's one of those things that if you're not aware of it, you're not gonna check up on it. It's that tracker. What is that tracker that you found?
Oh, yes. It's from the Wisconsin Education Network. It tells you. So what you do is you're going to go to that website and you're going to find where you live and then find your school district or your school system. And it will tell you in that tracker how much of your public money, public taxpayer funds, your property taxes that you may have voted to raise,
Increase.
how much of that is going to be diverted to the private school voucher system, or just the voucher system, I should say, charter schools, whatnot. It will tell you how much money is being diverted, and you probably will be shocked because, Jane, that's something that we hear from now quite a bit is that people, we got busy lives, we're doing things, and money is money. It always just seems to be there when it comes to government. Things get paid for, and they somehow find it. And while we say things like, I don't want my taxes to go up, or I don't want my taxes to pay for this, we don't think about the fact that when it comes to this particular issue, it's our taxpayer dollars that are funding these private school vouchers, and that money going to private school vouchers is being taken away from our public school system. So when the public schools aren't doing as well, which, speaking to Shali Pittman this week, they're doing better than some on social media will want you to believe.
Yes.
When they're not getting the money the money they need to have a good, solid system, better paid teachers, smaller classrooms, things of that, making sure a teacher doesn't have to fork out $300 to $500 a year of their own money for school supplies. That's one of the reasons why it's happening, is because we're taking those hundreds of millions, not thousands, not even millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and throwing it to a private school voucher system with no oversight, no checks and balances, nothing that says like, hey, if you want to be a part of this program, you have to do X, Y, and Z. No, here's a check. It'll clear. Don't worry. Go with God. All right. And that's what we do. That's all good.
Well, and you mentioned affordability and energy rates. Excuse me. And I don't know if you're not on social media, you probably haven't seen this. But Wisconsin Republicans have been all over this week about these rate hikes that are coming from We Energies.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Tiffany posted this week about how wrong this was and why isn't the governor doing something about energy rates, and it's the governor's public service commission and blah, 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 blah. And I just posted on it, said, well, I would love to see all your examples of when Wisconsin Republicans have stepped in and stopped rate hikes.
Mm-hmm.
I said, please provide me with links on all the times you guys have stepped up and stopped rate hikes from happening. Yeah, I haven't. I'm still waiting.
And if I saw somebody post something similar about, raging against energy hikes. And it's something I think that, once again, you ask Wisconsinites, they're going to all resoundingly say, that's bad. And if they don't, they probably work for We Energies. But Governor Evers, in the 2025 budget this year, there was a provision to end the state sales tax on household energy bills, and effective this past October, which projected to save Wisconsin households over $178 million. So Governor Evers can't make your energy free. He can't say, hey, we're going to subsidize it so it's only $50 a month for everybody. But he did something. He did something for us. $178 million. And that might not be a lot in the long run, but every bit counts. I mean, you take all that sales tax over a year, that could pay for some groceries. That could buy some school supplies. That could fix a car or whatnot. Pay for a week or two of childcare. But yeah, he did something. Now, what are you going to do? Because last time I checked, Tom Tiffany, all these other people who are on social media, they're not really like raging against big corporations. They're the ones taking the money. And I don't really see them standing up to them. Do you, Jane?
I don't.
No.
Shockingly, no. And again, Tom Tiffany and all the Republicans talking about what a disaster the ACA is. They've all been in office for a pretty long time, and I don't recall them ever doing anything about this or presenting their fabulous, wonderful, better than the ACA healthcare plans. If you are just joining us on Matenaer On Air, we are talking about an article from today's Wisconsin Examiner about the final session of the year for the Wisconsin Senate. They passed bills eliminating the annual $325 revenue increase for school districts. It will define abortion to not include treatment for ectopic pregnancies and also block state and federal dollars from being used on health care for people who are not here legally. Senate Minority Leader Dianne Hesselbein said she's dismayed and disgusted that lawmakers weren't taking up bills that focused on affordability. Yeah, they didn't do that, and the Republican legislature is the one that sets the agenda,
Yes.
right?
I mean, the last time I checked, Jane, and I'm as one person on the live stream called me an idiot. From what I understand, the people in power, who are the Republicans, are the ones who take up the bills. So it's not like the Democrats, or as they would call them, the Democrat Party, are the ones who are blocking anything. And also, the 400-year veto, and I might ask Dan to, we might talk about it with him on Friday. I would like to have him maybe explain a really quick version of this timeline, because people hear the 400-year thing, and they'll either say yay or boo and not maybe know a lot. And I'm one of those people who don't know every single detail. But what I do know from this is that this is yet another way the Republicans are suffocating money out of the educational system here in Wisconsin. It's not about affordability. And Wisconsinites would probably agree, because a majority of Wisconsinites voted to raise their own property taxes to fund their school system. So if you said, hey, instead of a referendum, we're going to raise your taxes a little bit this year and a little bit the following year to pay for the education here in Wisconsin. And by the way, that money that you're going to pay is still going to be a portion that will be diverted to voucher funding. So really all they've done is once again put their boot on the neck of education in Wisconsin. And that's not what we want. That's not what we've said we need here in the state. And you're right. Dianne Hesselbein is correct. They're not taking up the issues on the last day before their break leading to 2026, which, let's not forget, next year is the 8-week work year for the Wisconsin legislature. 8 weeks, and then it's a sunny, funny vacation down to wherever you'd like, and we'll probably end up paying for it too.
I think we probably will. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. We're talking about an article in today's Wisconsin Examiner about the final day of the Wisconsin Senate and all the things they're getting done. When we return, some pushback. We talked about this a little bit earlier on sports betting in Wisconsin, and from a group that you might find surprising. We'll have all the details coming up. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvi on the board, coming to you from her studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us. You can call or text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. After the 9:30 news, looking forward to talking to Amy Tubbs. She is a journalism teacher at Pulaski High School. And Pulaski is kind of a news desert. They don't have a local reporting outlet there. There's no local newspaper. So the student journalists have kind of stepped into the role. I'm very much looking forward to talking to Amy and her work with these journalism kids at Pulaski High School. That is on the way. If you're just joining us right before the break, we were talking about an article in the Wisconsin Examiner about the final day in the Wisconsin State Senate. And we had mentioned, Greg, that tracking, a couple of people texted in about that. Leaf from Racine, listening on WAUK, said, please repeat the tracking site for property taxes and school subsidies. Matt from Altoona, Greg mentioned a way to find out how much taxpayer money is going to voucher schools in our district. What is that website?
So it's okay. I cannot repeat it here because
it's so long.
It's a very long one. I will put it in the show notes today. So you're going to go to civicmedia.us. You're going to go to today's show in Matenaer On Air. Go to shows, go to Matenaer On Air, today's show in hour 1. And you will find that, and I'll make it very clear. I'll just say, to find out more, click here. It's from the Wisconsin Public Education Network. It's their 2024-2025 privatization impacts by district. So you will go on there, you'll click the link because it's a lot of ones and zeros and Z's. But you're going to go in there and you are going to type in your school district, and you are going to then just scroll down, and you will find how much they spend on your school district. So I'm just going to pick one at random right now. I'm looking at Baraboo. Baraboo has about 138,000, about statewide, $1.13 million from the
to
Baraboo
private
school
and voucher schools?
To voucher schools. So you go to that link, click that link, type in where your school system is, and you'll find out how much is spent there. And you won't be surprised to see some of the bigger cities spending a lot of money on this. So it will be there for you. I suggest you bookmark it and tell your friends, because again, this is a topic that gets real murky, gets real nuanced. There's a lot of weeds involved in it, and you can easily be like, I don't know what's going on. Just know this. You as a taxpayer spends money on 2 school systems.
We're funding 2 separate districts.
For one for everyone, one for some, and the one for some has no rules.
Yeah. Again, go to civicmedia.us. At the very top, it says shows. Click on shows. Go down to Matenaer On Air. And then if you click on hour number 1 from today, that will have that link in there. Go to civicmedia.us. We did talk about this not too long ago. Jesse Opoyan in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel has the byline today. Backers of legalizing online sports betting confront conservative pushback in Wisconsin. The bill that would allow online sports betting in Wisconsin getting opposition, not a surprise, from companies like DraftKings and FanDuel. And now the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is out saying this is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea.
Well, not only that, but luminaries like Dan O'Donnell and Vicki McKenna, they hate this idea. This is just, ew, boo, no.
I don't, and personally, I don't think this is a good thing. I don't think this is good for anybody. I don't.
My thing is that we do it anyways. You have certain abilities to do it anyways. And if we're going to regulate it and somehow if the state can make money off of it, if we can somehow gather tax revenue from it, then yes. But if you're telling me that it's not a good thing because DraftKings and FanDuel don't like it, I don't care. That
Well,
doesn't bother me at all.
that's not my issue. My
Yeah.
concern is that gambling addiction is real, and gambling can cause major damage to families because people lose their entire life savings.
And I understand that point, but I'm gonna harken back to conversations we had about marijuana legalization. We cannot not do something because some are affected by this. Those people should seek treatment, whether it's for drugs, gambling, whatever that may be. But if people, we tried doing that once before in the 20s. It didn't work at all. Prohibition just is not a thing
Doesn't work.
And whether we're talking about hemp, THC, we're talking about weed, we're talking about alcohol. If you find a way to legalize it, find a way to regulate it, and then put forth at least support for programs that can help those who are affected negatively by it. But this is it's just sort of a terribly kept secret here in Wisconsin. And the memo from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, love saying that name. They said, instead of reforming inconsistencies in our current law, these bills attempt to end run around federal law and the state constitution, expanding and exposing an already broken, illegal statewide gambling. I mean, that's the thing. Then just make it illegal or make it legal. But it just feels like we're just not really. It's like just feels like weed, Jane. This feels like the weed topic.
Well, and it's interesting because, I mean, this is bipartisan legislation. There are Republicans who signed on to this. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting how all of a sudden there's such pushback about this.
Howard Markline and
Chris
Alfheim, like those two names, not people you see at the lunch table together usually.
Right.
And what you're seeing though is Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, the radio people, FanDuel, DraftKings. I don't see a lot of politicians saying this is not a good idea. It feels like this is going to go through. Once there's tribal consultation, it feels like this is going to happen.
Well, and again, it's about money, isn't it? And who feels like they might be losing money? Really, that's kind of what that is.
Jane, I really feel like this whole deal is going to just bankrupt FanDuels and DraftKings. It's really going to chip into those billions.
What will they do?
Yeah.
We have news coming up next, and then we're going to talk about high school journalism on the other side with Amy Tubbs. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away.
When I say I love you, you say you better. You better, you better, you better. When I say I need you, you say you better. You better, you better. When I say I love you, you say you better. You better, you better, you better. When I say I need you, you scream.
Good morning, Amy. Does everything sound okay?
Yes, it does.
All right. Awesome. You sound great. We will be back from break in just a moment. We're really looking forward to the conversation.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the board lord, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. Call or text. The number is the same at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream. Good morning, live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We are very excited to be joined by our next guest. She is the journalism instructor at Pulaski High School. Amy Tubbs is here. Good morning, Amy. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We reached out to you because of this great article that Calvin found in the Wisconsin Watch, and it says, "Meet the teens, keeping this Northeast Wisconsin village from becoming a news desert." Pulaski News is a fixture of the community and a tool to prepare students for the workforce and the last official source, keeping residents informed about hyper-local action. So tell us about the importance of Pulaski News. This has been a really important part of that community for a long time, from what I understand.
It has. It started back in 1942, so we've been going over 80 years. And we are in charge of publishing the town paper. Our students are out looking for stories. They are interviewing people in the community. We do a lot of school news as well, but we've really tried to go out in the community and find things that people are interested in. We try to find individuals that maybe people don't know much about, or they see them and they don't realize, oh, there's this really cool backstory that this person has. So we're trying to tell those kind of stories, and people are enjoying that, and they're still subscribing.
What is the where is your community? What is the size of the community?
Last time I checked, population was around 3,000, but I think it's grown since then. Our high school has about 1,100 students, so we have a pretty big square mileage around the community. So Pulaski is located just west of Green Bay.
Okay.
So when you're teaching journalism, what's like kids walk in, they say, I want to write a story. Are they interested? And what's like the first step for them to understand the process of being an investigative journalist or just writing a story? What are those what are the first days of teaching the kids?
Well, the first days are, how do you interview? How do you talk to people? How do you get in touch? And the very first interview they do is interviewing another student in the class, because one of the first stories we publish is the staff bio. So get to know this year's staff. And it's just really interesting because of how people communicate these days. They are so used to just texting each other or Snapchatting or, all those different things, that when it comes time to sit down eye to eye and talk to somebody,
Yeah.
they're a little nervous, and even if it's another student in the class and they already know them, we're a little nervous about that
Yeah.
because we don't do that in our daily life. So we do a practice with that, and they write their first article, and then we start sending them out community events. We talk about who wants to, take photographs. We have a staff meeting every Wednesday, and we sit down and we talk about what are some things coming up in the community that we're aware of in school, who wants to cover what. So they have choice in the stories that they're going to cover. But we also say, well, we really need to cover this story. It's important. Let's get somebody on that,
But that is how a newsroom works. You have editorial meetings, you have assignments. These are the cover, the news editor decides what's important, right? And what needs to be covered, and then you send people out from there. Are they covering like really exciting things like school board meetings and town, utility board meetings, or not necessarily that kind of news?
Not necessarily that kind of news, but if something comes out of one of those meetings that's important, like one of our local parks just got an upgrade. They applied for a grant, and there was this super old footbridge in the park that has been removed, and they're putting in the new one that's just about finished. So that kind of thing might come out of it, but we're typically not sending them to the meetings like that.
I'm curious about the kids who walk in and say, I want to try this. I want to take this class. Because as you said, we don't live in a world now where young people, and even people my age in their 40s, aren't sitting down with a newspaper, I think, and I don't mean this offensively towards them, but aren't appreciating the process of journalism, of that, the fire inside to find a story, even if it is going to a town meeting and reporting and making sure that I am the voice that gets this news to the people so they know, because someone out there wants to read it. But do you have kids coming through saying, I don't know what this is at all? Or do you have kids who's like, my parents raised me on newspapers, I know what to do, and I really want to do this? So like, what's the spectrum of children who come through and their interest in the topic?
We really have a variety of everything. We have the kids that come in like, well, I like to write, so I thought I'd try it out. We have kids coming in that, oh, my parents were in this, or my grandma was in it, and like, hey, they said I have to do this too. So there's kind of that family line, which is, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we know this is important. It was valuable to us. We think it's valuable to you. We do have in school a broadcast journalism class.
That's amazing.
Those kids, yeah, it's really cool. Those kids produce a weekly like TV show for our homeroom about the events in school, but then they're also the ones going out and they're broadcasting football games, basketball games, the sports events, and they've got kids that are doing the commentary. So sometimes there's crossover that they're doing that. Like, I really like this journalism thing and I want to come in. Sometimes we get kids that are like, well, why not? I'll try this. They realize, yeah, interviewing is not my thing.
Yeah.
And they turn like they're great photo journalists. So there's really a huge variety.
If you just joined, so I'm sorry to interrupt. If you're just joining us, Amy Tubbs is our guest. She's a journalism instructor for Pulaski High School, which is located a little bit west of Green Bay. And we're talking about Pulaski News, which is the big and only newspaper in that community. Amy, I'm curious, you were talking about the kids learning how to interview. I'm wondering if the students who are involved with this paper, if you have noticed that they have developed better interpersonal communication skills by doing this job.
I think so. Especially we'll get some real shy ones in that love to write. And at first, they're sending me emails in class, like when I'm, 10 feet away from them because they're nervous to talk in person. And yeah, that's kind of a thing these days. And then by the end of the class, they're coming up, they're having a conversation. Some of them will take it more than 1 year and we'll talk about, hey, how was it your first interview versus now? They're giving tips to the newer students, but they're confident and they're comfortable. And they always say at the end, the most interesting stories they did were the ones where they got to meet people and talk to them.
I'm interested to find out, and I do not want to turn this political. I promise you this. Okay. But something that we see in the media that is a big concern is that interviewers do not push forward. I don't want to say push back, push forward. When questions are answered in a way that seem to service the person being asked in a way that relieves them of responsibility, we see journalists who just kind of move on. Is that something you teach them? Is like keep digging until you find the answer you're looking for, and then when you found it, there you go. But like, don't. Teaching them how to sniff out the BS in an answer, I should say. How about let's go right there.
Nice and short. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, most of the stories we do aren't we're not trying to uncover the truth kind of stories. We're a little more feel good stuff, but we do have conversations about that, you need to know what your angle is going in, and you need to know what you want to find out and kind of rephrase. But most of our interviews, like the people that we're talking with, want to help us and they want to tell their story.
Right. You're not coming up against a lot of opposition, I would assume. But I still think it's important. Are they taught that as a journalist, your role is not to just be a stenographer? Right?
Yeah. We do talk about that a little bit, but it's also more just making sure that you're telling the thorough story, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
So having follow-up questions and making sure you've got everything you need.
Do
And
you
what
ever
if-
have kids who walk through and say, "I've got the scoop," and they try to find the story? They're like, "No, it's a water department meeting. It's fine. No conspiracies."
Yeah, we've brought up topics before. They'll kind of like, we should write about, and then we kind of talk about, is this going to work? Is it going to fit? And, we kind of tweak that. They're getting better at finding things in the community and saying, hey, this is going on. We should write about it. Like today we just had our story meeting, and one person found out that the local dentist is doing a stitching event where kids can bring in their stuffed animals and get them stitched up. I was like,
Oh,
this
those are
is cute,
hilarious.
right?
That's cute.
Yeah, it's adorable. And like, I didn't know that was going on. So that's really cool that they know something in the community now that I didn't even know.
Well, and that just tells you, too, that even in a small community like yours, there's still stuff happening that not everyone is aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're just joining us, we are speaking to Amy Tubbs on Matenaer On Air. She is the journalism instructor at Pulaski High School. Pulaski in Brown County, not in Milwaukee County, as we've had some confusion on the live stream. But yes, up there in Green Bay. And you are teaching young people how to become journalists. And I think that is vitally important. We talk about that all the time. We work for a media network, and we have local people on the ground reporting that local news to the people it affects directly. And that's, we live in 24 news, and that 24-hour news, I'm watching it right now on my television here, and it's not in Pulaski or even Milwaukee or even Wisconsin. So finding those connections and young people understanding the power of it, even if it's feel-good stories, it still connects with people and allows them to understand their communities.
That is a really powerful thing. And I think,
Yeah.
Some of our students are bussed in from quite a distance. And so they're maybe not living right in Pulaski. And so them discovering their own community that they go to school in, that's really powerful to watch happen. Because they're like, oh, I didn't know we had a museum. It's cool.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any graduates, Amy, who went on to go into media or journalism? I mean, since you've been around since 42, I would imagine some have.
Yeah, we've got a few notables. Jackie Bonashinsky in 1988 won a Pulitzer Prize for feature writing, which is just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
And this
amazing.
past year, we had two students. They're working at different TV stations, Bella Van Lannen and Holly DeRuyter. Weirdly, they were both nominated in the same regional Emmy Award program for diversity stories that they had produced.
That's amazing.
That's really impressive.
I know. It's really cool. And there's other students that go on to work at their school papers. We've got another one on a local TV station reporting now. So some of them are going on and making this a career.
That's
That's
fantastic.
great.
We
That-
love
that-
hearing from that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
most
Amy.
definitely. That gives me hope.
Yeah, yeah,
That
exactly.
gives me hope. Amy Tubbs is a journalism teacher at Pulaski High School, west of Green Bay, talking about Pulaski news. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy. It's been really, really interesting. Wish the kids well for us.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Of course.
When we return, we are going to continue talking about journalism and the importance of having reporters on the ground. This is going back to an older story, but it's worth repeating. That's all on the way. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast, statewide, countrywide. You can pick us up around the world on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I got good news. Yes, dear, how did you know?
Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Cal B coming to you live from our home at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join, call or text. The number is the same at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Our thanks to Amy Tubbs from Pulaski High School. She is the journalism teacher there, talking about the journalism program and Pulaski News, west of Green Bay, by the way, not Pulaski High School in Milwaukee. But this kind of leads us to this story that we've been sitting on for a while, Greg.
Yeah.
I've wanted to mention this just because I think it really reinforces the importance of local journalism and why it matters. This goes back a couple of years to a Kansas County local newspaper that all started. A confidential source to the paper leaked evidence that a local restaurant owner who'd been convicted of drunk driving kept driving without a license. Now, this paper, the Marion County Record, never published anything related to that because they thought the source was giving this information during a divorce. So they didn't use that info. But police notified this restaurant owner the information was going around. So she alleged that the newspaper illegally obtained and disseminated sensitive documents about her, which was not true. That led the sheriff's department to raid the paper.
Oh, my God.
They raided the paper. They raided the owner's home. 98-year-old Joan Meyer collapsed and died of a heart attack the day after they raided her home because she was so stressed out because of this investigation by the sheriff's department. The raid triggered a fresh chapter in a national debate about freedom of the press, focused on this little town, Marion, about 1,900 people southwest of Kansas City. The sheriff has since apologized, along with a former council member. Yeah, she's still dead, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The sheriff's office wishes to express its sincere regrets to Eric and Joan Meyer and other people for participating in this search warrant on their home and on the Marion County Record. What a nightmare. The newspaper published a story, tried to set the record straight. Then came the raids, authorized by a search warrant. They alleged theft, unlawful use of a computer. They seized all their computers, their cell phones. I mean, it was incredible.
And it's not the only story of that, of local papers being targeted. That comes right here home to Wisconsin, because in 2021, the Wausau Pilot and Review was also sued for, quote, it was defamation. It was for reckless disregard. And all it was that paper reporting a story that an individual, and if
was it a common council member? Somebody like that.
Yeah, common council member. It was a businessman. He's now a Republican state senator, Corey Tomczyk, who we actually just talked about this week on the show.
That's right.
He sued the Wausau Pilot and Review after they reported that he was overheard using an anti-gay slur while in the audience of a Marathon County meeting. And they reported it. He sued them. The appeals court sided for the Wausau Pilot and Review, and they said that there was no defamation. This was simply reporting the actual news. They were not trying to cause malice against the gentleman who is now a state senator. But this is not even the first, second, or 15th story of someone trying to use their power to end the voice of a local news source.
Exactly, and they do this and it's financial. They go after them financially.
Yeah, and that's the thing is did Wausau Pilot and Review eventually win? Yes, they did. But that's not without having to pay the money that it took to get lawyers and to take time, which I don't know if you know this, Jane. Places like the Wausau Pilot and Review, Racine County Eye, this Kansas City paper here, they're not exactly flush with cash.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Washington Post here.
Yeah. The Marion County Record, as far as I know, is not something that's like, a multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate. So even though they win, and it's a win for freedom of speech and for local reporting, it still takes a huge chunk out of their budget because they have to pay for this.
Yeah. Well, this sheriff is set to go to trial in February in Marion County on a felony charge of interfering with a judicial process, accused by special prosecutors of persuading a witness to withhold information. Yeah, it just gets better and better. He has pleaded not guilty and did not respond to a question from the Associated Press. So we'll
he'll get
just have-
pardoned. He'll get pardoned.
we'll just have to keep an eye on that.
This is just to prove. This is just to further the point for us that the mission we do at Civic Media is local reporting all over the state. Subscribe to your local papers.
So important.
Give gifts of that local paper to people. Tell people about your local papers and get into knowing what's going on in your community. Supporting them is how you find out about the things that directly affect you.
Absolutely.
A New York Times subscription is great, but if you live in Mosinee, they're not reporting about you. And subscribing to these outlets, whether they're digital or paper, goes a long way and helps your community.
It makes a big difference. It
Yes, it
really
does.
does. Support
Yes.
your local journalism outlets. We need them. We have news coming up next, and we have reporters all over the state.
Yeah, we
and
do,
when
baby.
we come back, we are going to talk about immigration and ICE. Jeez.
Just doing it the right way, Jane.
Yeah, all the worst people, really?
Yeah.
That's all coming up. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Cause you're different, girl, from all the rest. In my eyes, and I ran out before, but I won't do it anymore. Can't you see the light in my eyes? In my eyes. Jane says,
Good morning, and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenhoff, coming to you live from our home at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. Call or text, the number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up a little bit later on this hour after the 10:30 news, the segment we call Audio Sorbet, where we lighten things up, get away from serious topics, and take a little breath. The anniversary of Calvin and Hobbes, I believe, was yesterday. We started talking about our old favorite comic strips. Which comic strips did you love? Which ones really spoke to you? Which ones were really annoying? I can think
Which
of
ones
one.
made you say ack?
Yeah, what? Oh, yes, ack out loud. We're going to talk about comic strips for Audio Sorbet today, and then we'll wrap up the show, as we always do, with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the Take a Bite Out of This edition. Stay tuned for that. We wanted to start off, though, with another article that was published today. Natalie Ebert has the byline in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and the headline says, "She followed all the rules for building a life in Wisconsin, and then the rules changed." 27-year-old Dalen Pacheco Acosta had been working for a Madison family. She'd been doing this for several years, chaperoning their 3-year-old to class every Tuesday. In October, during a routine check-in with U.S. Immigration, she was arrested. This, again, my issue is the Trump administration told us they were going after the worst of the worst criminals, the most dangerous people that have infiltrated our country. A working nanny going through the regular process until the rug got pulled out, that doesn't seem to me to be the worst of the worst. And yes, crossing the border illegally is a crime. It's not a felony.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Also-
not.
Also, they were going for what's called temporary protected status, which is something that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was enjoying when he was here also. And that, just as a quick reminder, as it says here in the article, it's designed to allow people from countries suffering from natural disasters, civil strife, or other dangerous conditions to remain in the country while they apply for their asylum or seek other paths to citizenship, i.e., doing it the legal way. But the problem, Jane, the problem always is now it went from the worst of the worst, the criminals, the murders, all the things that are the terrible things. Now it is just simply baseline. Well, you came here illegally. You're a criminal. Get out. That's it. It was once, yes, let's rid ourselves of the criminals and a lot of Americans agreed we need to get rid of terrible criminals out of this country. But now it's to fulfill this ridiculous quota from
Yes.
Stephen Miller of 3,000
Yes.
people a day. They're
Yes.
taking everyone. Some people who don't, who shouldn't be taken out of the country at all because they, were born here. But now it's just simply, Jane, if you are here illegally, you are the exact criminal Donald Trump was talking about, and you are dangerous.
In this particular case, this working nanny and her husband, they've gone every year to their ICE check-ins since 2021. That is when they left Venezuela. They did cross the border into the U.S., at which time, as you mentioned, Greg, they signed up for temporary protected status, which was legal. That was the legal way to go through this until the Trump administration said, no, that's not legal anymore.
Yep.
And I think it's important that people remember that ICE raid on that building in Chicago where they rappelled out of Black Hawk helicopters, smashed in people's doors, zip-tied children, kept them separated from their parents for hours in vans. To this point, no criminal charges have come out of that.
Correct.
No one has been charged with being a Tren de Agua gang member. That was their whole predicate for raiding that building, and now there's no charges.
Nope. And they're probably, and I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be the gloomy Gus on this one, but there probably won't be. And when you bring this up to people who are for this mass deportation, which is signs they held at the RNC last year in Milwaukee, mass deportations now. When you talk to them about such violent and dramatic ways of arresting, snatching, and disappearing people to jail to other countries, and when you involve the conversation point of children being zip tied, that's when the gauntlets throw down and says, like, which side of this do you fall on as far as, can you say, oh, this is not what I wanted and I don't like this? And some people have. There have been people who've come forward and say, this is a bridge too far. But then you just have people who say, nah, I don't care. They're kids. They're not Americans.
Yep, I see it on Twitter all the time. Good, get rid of all of them. Good, good,
okay,
good.
And this is something actually, to revisit a point we talked about last year before the election when things seemed to be okay. I mean, God, remember that? Ooh, oh, my goodness.
Feels like eons ago.
Not waking up with a stomachache every day. But when you look at this process of trying to get rid of 3,000 people a day, when you get rid of that many people, that has a definite, sharp, and visible effect on our economy.
Absolutely.
I mean, just talk to our farmers who have lost their employees, who, yes, they were employing people who were here, they were here undocumented, but they were trying to get them through processes to get them temporary work visas, trying to push through legislation to make it easier for people to come to this country and do labor and be a part of the system. And not to mention, we're not even going to get into the fact that undocumented people all over this nation are putting in hundreds of millions of dollars into our tax economy,
right?
But it doesn't matter to them for some reason, Jane, and I don't understand that. I don't get why. It goes to what you said. There's no long-term planning. There's no long-range planning. They don't see these people as possible assets. Therefore, let's invest time and money into programs that allow them to stay here to contribute to our economy.
Well, and they're really very useful scapegoats, because now when I go on social media and I hear about the housing problems and how we don't have enough affordable housing, Republicans are all over now on blaming illegal immigrants on the housing crisis. So is it they're sucking off of the social welfare systems in the US. They're getting free health care and free this and free that. And yet at the same time, they have so much money, they're buying up all our $400,000 houses. Really?
Well, it's whatever problems that ail what they see as good Americans. And I don't know what that means. That's a very subjective phrase. Whatever hurts us, whether it's affordability, whether it's education, whether it's, access to programs or just a good life. I don't know. They will attribute those problems a villain, and that villain is always either if we're going economic, it's immigrants. If we're going social, it's trans people. Those are the two bad guys in this situation. The two scapegoats in this situation. And it's easy to do that because all you have to do is say your housing is costing more because immigrants are buying up all. No. No, private equity firms, billionaires are buying up all the housing, and they're turning them into rental properties, and they're making it so that young people will never, ever see a mortgage. And if they do, they'll get a 50-year mortgage and pay $200 a month less than with a traditional, but yet pay somewhere between $1 to $2 million in interest and back to the bank. So, yeah, there are problems in this country. They need solutions. They don't need super duper comic book villains, and it's not immigrants and it's not trans people.
Again, going back to this article in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel about this nanny who had been working in Madison for the last couple of years, going through the process, going to their annual immigration meetings. Their lawyer says, yes, they crossed the border. They asked for asylum. They were let in by the government. They pay taxes. They contribute to their communities. Prior to them being arrested during their regular ICE appointment, neither of them had so much as a speeding ticket. They followed all the rules, but yeah, let's throw them out of the country. They're bad.
Currently, these two probably pay more taxes than Jeff Bezos, all right?
Seriously.
But yeah, it's always going to be the othering, as we've mentioned as well. It's the othering.
This goes back to, and we want to give a plug to our guest who came on. He wrote a book about pick your immigration journey.
Story. Yeah. Yep.
Right?
It was a comedian and writer for
Daily Show.
For Late Night with Colbert. It was Felipe Torres Medina. I always want to make sure I get the full name correct. But Felipe Torres Medina wrote a book called America Let Me In, a Choose Your Immigration Story. I've read the book. It's fantastic.
It is.
And it speaks on a variety of situations on which the ultimate goal is immigrating to this country to becoming a citizen. And he breaks down what you need to go through if you are, let's say, a rich white European with connections. Are you not? Okay, here's the next thing. Are you a person with menial funds and a person of color? Here's what you have to go through. And discusses just how strenuous and how anxiety-ridden that process that can be to say, I would like to become a citizen of this country. And we don't, as a country, make it easy. And it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be just like you're here for 6 months and there you go, there's your passport. But it at least should be a level playing field so that someone like these two individuals in this story, and I want to say their names out loud because they deserve recognition for doing it the right way. That would be Dalen Pacheco Acosta.
And her husband Diego.
Her husband Diego. They shouldn't have to do what's happening right now. They are doing it the right way, and now it's going to be, if they are able to come back ever again, which maybe not the case. So it's a great book. I suggest getting it. I suggest getting the audio book because it's very funny too. It's very funny, very informative. And I know you have, and I know we're coming up against the wall here, but I know you have experience in it. We have people on the phone who want to talk to us about this topic, but it's not as simple as some people on social media want to make it seem.
Absolutely not. By the way, going back to this particular couple, U.S. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that this couple broke immigration laws when they entered the country. They crossed the border. They asked for asylum, says their attorney. They were let in by the government. They followed all the rules. And the Trump administration basically says, yeah, well, too bad.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're not us. You're not Americans. You don't look like you're not white South Afrikaners. You don't get to stay here.
Yeah,
so that's a whole other kettle of fish.
We don't have time to jump into that.
But again, no one on the phone lines calling, telling us, hey, yeah, to heck with them. No, because it's indefensible.
When we return, let's kill all the programs that are good for consumers. That sounds like a winning plan. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, our one, our only calzone on the board, coming to you from our home at Radio Park in Racine, where you can join us. Call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up in just a little bit, audio sorbet, where we kick around things that are not related to heavy news. We're going to talk about your favorite comic strips that are no longer around. I used to cut them out and put them on my fridge. I don't think I'm the only one.
No.
You never did that, did you?
We did it at home when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were little comic strips on the refrigerator, and then
All right.
when they turned a certain color, then you took them down.
Yeah, and they start to getting yellow. It's time to take the strip down. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about favorite comic strips after the 10:30 news. Right now, we did want to talk a little bit about, it might be good for consumers, so let's not do that. Couple examples. This is from USA Today. IRS direct file ends. Yeah. Americans will have one fewer free option to file their taxes next year because the Trump administration killed IRS direct file.
Which is something they've been trying to do for a while.
Yeah. But of course, it went into being under the Biden administration. We can't have that.
Yeah.
It was meant to simplify federal tax filing for Americans and save them money. It was launched as a pilot program in 2023. Taxpayers in 12 states got to file directly to the IRS. It did expand in 2024 to 25 states. Without it, direct file supporters say Americans will now have to spend more time and money in order to do their taxes. I believe there might have been some lobbying involved in this from, could it be tax preparation companies?
Absolutely. I mean, this is something that, I know that John Oliver did an episode about this very topic, and the fact that we are, like, I think one of the only countries that didn't have some sort of system where we could just do it ourselves directly with the government. It's because
cut out the middleman.
These tax preparation companies and their lobbying arms have all been using their dollars for decades to keep it from happening. And when it finally did happen, as soon as Trump got in office, it's gone because, whatever business likes, business daddies get.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Whatever makes it simpler for us has to go, period. And someone will give you some ridiculous answer as to why we're getting rid of it. It's bad for freedom. It's bad for America. Apparently it's run by immigrants and or trans people. I have no idea. But yeah, it's another way. It's again, another way that we are getting
screwed.
There it is. I didn't want to say the word, but you said it. It's your show. Your name's in the title. And it always, when it comes down to whether it's business and a business and the people, or Trump and the people will never win, period.
Another little example of this. This is from CNBC. Trump administration drops Biden plan to require passenger compensation for delayed flights. Again, might be good for us as consumers, as the little people. It's not good for big business, though. And as you said, Greg, what big business wants, big business gets.
Business daddy rules. You think Trump is in charge? No, business daddies are in charge. That's who's in charge.
In December of 2024, the U.S. Transportation Department, under then President Joe Biden, asked for public comment on writing rules to require airlines to pay $200 to $300 for a domestic delay of at least 3 hours and almost $800 for longer delays. Yeah, that's gone.
Yep.
Can't have that. Last month, a group of 18 Democratic senators urged the Trump administration not to drop that plan, but of course, he did. Airlines have been pushing Trump to go further. They're very excited. They are praising this action to reduce that plan from Joe Biden that would have actually helped consumers.
Yeah, we're never first of mind. It's just not how this ever works. And then somehow they get to spin it into being good, and it really makes me. Ever since, and as an event, I'm only saying this as an event, not as a thing. But ever since 9/11, the airline industries have had more and more hardships because of increasing legislation, increasing oversight, but then what they do is they just continue to pass those fees on to us in a way that we have no choice, because I'm not driving to Paris, and so therefore I have to fly. Therefore, we are kind of, what's that word again? We're getting what again, Jane?
That would be screwed.
Exactly.
Screwed would be the official term. And by the way, I just want to remind folks that, remember Paul Ryan, Wisconsin's own Paul Ryan, who promised us that we would be able to file our taxes on a postcard? Remember that? When they took away all the deductions that regular people had, the few deductions people had, they took all those away because it was going to be so easy to file your taxes. You could just do it on a postcard. That hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to have to spend between $300 to $400 to $500 next year on my taxes, and also getting probably nothing in return and having to pay the government as well. So again, people zero, Trump, who cares?
Well done. We have news coming up next, and then when we return, we're going to jump into a little audio sorbet and talk about favorite comic strips from days gone by. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
In the rich man's world, all the things I could do if I had a little money.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and our resident young person, Calvin, on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. This is the portion of the show that we call Audio Sorbet, where we take a breath, get away from the news, talk about things that are a little lighter so we can all relax for 20 minutes or so. Is that so bad? I don't think so. Calvin and Hobbes celebrated 40 years yesterday. Calvin and Hobbes hit our newspapers 40 years ago on November 18th of 1985, and that got us talking about comic strips and how they've kind of disappeared, which is a shame, but I think a lot of us have favorite comic strips that really stuck with us over the years. So we would love to know which comic strip you love and miss. 855-752-4842. 855-75-CIVIC. Favorite newspaper comics. Which one was it? Maybe it was Calvin and Hobbes. That was not necessarily my thing. I didn't mind Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
I loved Bloom County.
Well, I
By
first of all, I just want to say
Berkeley
this.
Breathed.
I didn't know that I'm older than Calvin and Hobbes. That's something you find out in your 40s. The things you're older than, which is probably another whole other audio sorbet. You're like, oh, this thing's been around for a century. It's been around for 25 years. Oh, great.
Great.
Bloom County, remind me. I don't remember that one.
Bloom County was Opus the Penguin.
Okay.
And boy, Ack, Bill the Cat. Bill the Cat was dead. You didn't know Bill the Cat? Not resonating.
I'm looking them up right now. I'm looking at all of because
they had big book compilations.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of Bloom County, and that went on. It went on for years and years. I think it might still be there in some form. What is your favorite newspaper comic strip? Which is the one that you loved and you miss now? 855-752-4842. Mine again, by far, would be Bloom County. I really, really miss it. They did a great job of being right on the line of politics.
Yeah.
You know, there's that fine line where it's still really funny, but they're taking some shots. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
For me growing up, the ones that I always remember are, and I'm looking at, first of all, we asked the question at the beginning of the show, whether or not they're still around. And I looked it up, and yes, they are still a part of newspapers today. It has changed a lot because back in the day, there was like a whole page dedicated. Remember the green sheet?
Yes.
The green sheet.
Yes.
But they're still in daily and Sunday print. So they do still exist, just not to the great wealth of availability that we used to. But when I was a kid, the ones that I always saw were Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield. I loved Garfield. I loved Garfield. So funny. Peanuts. And there was two, The Wizard of Id and Hagar the Horrible. Those were the two those were the ones I remember. I mean, I'm seeing other ones here that Sally Forth, Mary Worth.
Those were like soap opera strips, though.
Nancy.
Mary Worth was a soap opera.
Yeah, it's
in comic strip form, if I remember correctly.
I remember those. I remember all of those titles very well when you look at the paper and you open it up. I always went for Garfield, though. But we got some people on the line here. Ollie from the Northwoods on the phone. Ollie, what are your favorite newspaper comic strips, and do you still read them today?
Well, I have to always think first of Beetle Bailey because my dad was in the Army. That was always the first one that he went to read. So that's a very missed one in our family. And also Marmaduke.
The big dog.
It was the Winslow family, that had the big Great Dane. And I think because of that cartoon, when we came back to the States, I always wanted Great Danes and eventually ended up owning like 5 or 6 of them.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually probably had more because we had one litter of puppies, but it was quite a feat to have a litter of puppies in a one-bedroom house.
Oh my! And a litter of Great Dane puppies.
I don't even.
That's crazy.
For a litter, usually buy a second house for Great Danes because they're going to be taller than your tallest kid. Thank you so much, Ollie, for calling in and telling us about that. Yeah, I mean, these are all the ones we grew up on. I know PJ on the live stream says Family Circus. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot Family Circus.
That was a classic for decades.
Yeah, it's
decades.
On the text line, we have a lot here, too. Jim from Brookfield says, who can forget Mr. Tweety, the average Joe who never caught a break? Penny listening on WAUK also says Family Circus. And Brett in Brown Deer, one of our favorites, he said that the comic books I loved were the Freak Brothers comics, Total Stoner comics. All right, Brett, I buy that one. I buy that completely. But they had epic adventures and were really funny. And Rick in Mequon says Animal Crackers and Frank and Ernest were must read. So, yeah, they're still. I mean, I'm sure they're still out there, still available. And they're still in the papers. It's just like the old days. They would take up an entire page.
There was a whole section dedicated to nothing but comics. What was your favorite comic strip? You wish it was still around? 855-752-4842. Jack from Merrimack listening on WAUK. My favorite comics, The Far Side.
Yeah.
Larson is a genius of the single panel. There are still some I still have a couple of those cut out, actually. Some of the old Far Side cartoons. He did one with a little kid. And again, these are just one panel jokes. But there's a little kid sitting at his breakfast table, and he's obviously very, very depressed.
Yeah.
And his mother is standing beside him, comforting him. And she says, "It's okay, honey. I remember how disappointed I was when I saw my first disc jockey."
Wow.
It's a classic.
That's a niche that's designed for a specific audience right there.
An audience of 5.
There you go.
I still have it. I still have that hanging up with a picture of me from my first job in radio.
Audio sorbet today is, what are your favorite newspaper comic strips? We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Calvin and Hobbes. And Calvin and Hobbes always kind of there was a philosophical bent to that one too. It got deep without you knowing it. It asked questions and said things that you're like, oh, these are deeper concepts that I'm just giggling at. So we're celebrating them by talking about our favorite newspaper comic strips. Al from Campbellsport is calling in right now. Al, what are the comic strips that you grew up looking at? What are the ones you still look at today?
Well, good morning. This one goes back a ways. Alley Oop from 1959.
Okay.
Yes.
And I was like age 8. So I don't know if it was in Milwaukee papers, but I seen it in the Sheboygan Press years back.
I remember that one, Al. I do. I remember Alley Oop. That's going back a ways. Like Ollie said too, Beetle Bailey. That was it also. And Nancy was another one.
Ack!
But see, Ack is Bill the cat.
Really? I thought Ack,
from Bloom County.
Okay, well, I'm going to look it up because Nancy also said something too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Al, for calling.
Appreciate it, Al.
What did Nancy the comic strip? Yeah, I'm Googling right now. Famously. There we go. She said, oh, come on, AI. Don't.
It's not gonna work with you.
Well, but Nancy was the one who was like unlucky in love. She could never find
No,
love,
you're
right?
thinking of Kathy.
You're
thinking of Kathy. Kathy said Ack. Yes.
Yeah, Kathy did say Ack.
Yes.
We got, let's see here. Lori from Hayward said, Jane and Greg, the one I remember is Dennis the Menace. I'm not sure if we have any newspapers around Hayward that the carry cartoon strips anymore. And then one unnamed texter says Nancy and Sluggo, Archie and Veronica. Yeah, these...
The couples.
They were a moment. They were a moment for you. They were a couple. They were like, reading that portion of the paper was like, 5 minutes away from everything and enjoying something for just a moment.
Well, and I don't know about you, but for me, when I was very small, that was something that I would read with my dad.
Really?
Yeah. On Sunday mornings or whatever. And he would go through the paper, and I think that was an early introduction to reading, at least for me. because it was, it's short, it's sweet, it's
Yeah.
easy.
It's funny, and it's a moment of connection, and what it did, it provides memories for you. So, I mean, that's really, really, I love that. And
Sue from Franklin texting in, talking about a Far Side again, a one-panel cartoon. My favorite one is where the cows are all standing up, leaning on the fence, talking to each other, and then a car comes by, someone yells out "cows," and they all go back to grazing. Gary Larson was hilarious.
very, very, very funny. Let's see here. We got people on the line here. I believe Richard from Waukesha. Richard, what are the comic book strips or comic strips from the newspaper that you remember?
Well, early 60s, it was kind of political. It was Yogi Bear and Boo Boo. And they were all standing by the picnic table and trying to figure out how to do it. And there was a TV show. There was a man that actually read the comics to you when you were real young. I don't know when it started.
That was back when they needed a lot of
early.
content. That's when they needed a lot of content.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the call. Ben from Richland Center texting in, listening on WRCE. My dad had a bunch of There Ought to Be a Laws in paperback. They were 2 panels, and they really encompassed the quirks of human nature. That is really a unique gift.
Yeah.
I think cartooning like that, because you have to make your point so quickly. I think if you're a good cartoonist, you're brilliant.
You have to be a good illustrator, and you have to think about I have to fit all of these thoughts into 12 words.
Right.
Yeah. Mary from Wisconsin, you get the last word. What are the comic strips that you remember from the newspaper? Doonesbury, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yep, nobody mentioned that yet. That's unbelievable.
Right. That's definitely on the list there. Doonesbury was always in the paper, always there. And I feel like and when I say adult, I don't mean I just mean it was high-minded humor, in my opinion.
Well, it was a little more complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was certainly more complicated than Nancy and Sluggo. Those were a lot easier. Those were easier to follow.
Calvin, did you grow up on anything like that? Did you read comic book strips? Comic strips. Sheesh.
I wasn't ever huge into them. I remember the Family Circus.
Mm-hmm.
People, for obvious reasons, tried to push Calvin and Hobbes on me.
Oh,
really? Why?
Oh, you like Calvin and Hobbes? Or, were you named after Calvin and Hobbes? Neither of those are true. So, but yeah, I don't particularly like this comment, but no one mentioned Garfield.
I did.
You did?
Yes.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry, Greg.
I led with Garfield, Calvin.
Okay, well, Garfield, I feel like has permeated our culture in a way that a lot of comic strips have.
Yeah. Yeah.
They definitely left an impression. Absolutely. Thanks to everybody who took part in today's audio sorbet. All right, when we return, we will wrap up the show with This Shouldn't Be a Thing, Take a Bite edition. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network, and we'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine, where you can join us. Call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up on the show tomorrow, it is Thursday already, so Jim Santel, host of Amicus, a law review, is going to be joining us after the 9:30 news.
And what are we going to talk about, Jane?
Oh, there's just a couple things to talk about. Things are not going very well for the Trump administration in court, especially some of Trump's personally selected lawyers. Wow, some of the judges and what they're saying about these attempts by these Trump lawyers. It's pretty astonishing. Jim Santel will join us to break some of that stuff down. We're going to talk all things sports in hour number 2. Paul Noonan will be here from the Acme Packing Company to talk all things sports. So I hope you can join us tomorrow morning for that. Right now, though, it is 10:54 Calvin. That means it's time for
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
If you ever find a thing you think this should not be, send it in to Greg and me at Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS. Jane Says at civicmedia.us. This from the Associated Press. Rod McQuirk has the headline. It reads, Australian prisoner sues for his human right to eat Vegemite.
Have you ever had Vegemite?
No, and I've heard it's very much an acquired taste.
I have only heard Australians speak highly of Vegemite.
They're the only ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, they are by far the only ones.
Yeah.
This happened in Australia. A prisoner challenging Australia's ban on inmates eating Vegemite, saying that withholding this breaches his human right to enjoy his culture as an Australian. Vegemite is a yeast-based spread.
Ugh.
I know. 54-year-old Andrew Mackenzie is serving a life sentence for murder. Took his battle to court. Most Australians revere Vegemite as unfairly maligned. More than 80% of Australian households are believed to have a jar of Vegemite in their pantries. Inmates, though, in all 12 prisons in Victoria, Australia, are going without. The case is actually going to go to trial next year.
Okay. Couple questions.
Yeah.
One, from what I understand, Vegemite is a fairly common foodstuff in Australia.
Yes.
So it surprises me that the prison wouldn't have it. Like I imagine
Right.
prisons have like butter and condiments. So I don't understand why it wouldn't have Vegemite.
It says that Vegemite contains yeast, which is banned in those prisons because it could be used in the production of alcohol. Could be.
They've never had toilet wine. So
Well, apparently not. The man representing this inmate says that that is not possible. He rejects reports that inmates are using Vegemite to brew alcohol. So they say that's not happening, but that's why it's not there. They have banned it from prisons, no Vegemite, since 2006 because it interferes with drug detecting dogs. Inmates used to smear packages of illicit drugs with Vegemite, hoping the smell would distract the dogs.
listen, mate, I just want to put some Vegemite on my toast. I don't want to escape. I'm out of appeals. All I want is to enjoy that wonderful savory spread on my toast in the morning. Please give me my Vegemite.
Nice Australia. Nice Aussie
Thank you very much.
accent.
This is the
boy,
third
you're
time
getting
we've
better and better.
This is the third Australian Tisbat in 2 weeks, so it's only going to get better or worse, or I should say better or more offensively Australian.
You're doing pretty
Thank
good.
you very much. Also, the whole thing is like,
doesn't that just indicate how bad that stuff smells?
yeah.
If they're smearing it on drugs to confuse drug detecting dogs, that must be some pretty powerful stuff.
But I will say here, I just looked it up. It said Vegemite tastes strongly salty, bitter, and savory with malty, yeasty flavor, often compared to a beef bouillon or dark soy sauce. That doesn't sound bad at all. In fact, I have to go to the store after this, and if they have Vegemite, I'm buying some, and I will report back tomorrow. I swear to God. I feel like in Australia, they love their Vegemite. In England, they love their Marmite.
They
and
do.
I just want to, honestly, we should have thought of some other things. Like, what would American prisoners call a human right to have? They're like, I want Cool Ranch Doritos. They should be mine.
Either something Cool Ranch or pizza related.
Yeah, or just ranch. Access to ranch
Just
sauces.
access to ranch.
Yeah, exactly. I demand the right to make a bigger waistline in prison. So I would like all of the Jell-O, all the colors.
Well,
But
and
yeah.
I guess we should thank the band Men at Work, because I think that was the first time a lot of us had heard even the term Vegemite from their song Down Under.
Artists and informers.
Look
Just
at that.
they really cultural representatives. Thank you
Not
very
getting
much,
enough
gentlemen.
credit. Don't get enough credit. That wraps up today's episode of
This shouldn't be a thing.
Terry on the live stream says, I've tried Vegemite. It's nasty. We'll go with that. Thank you,
All right.
Greg and Calvin and all of our engineers and everyone at Civic, because without you, nothing works. And thank you most of all for calling and texting and watching on the live stream and for listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it. Keep it right here. We have news coming up next. We will be back with you tomorrow right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Have a great day.